I'd like to welcome to the JPP, the Jewish Philanthropy Podcast, Modi Rosenfeld, is known colloquially in terms of his performance stature as just plain Modi. I was exposed to Modi for the first time, I remember, in 2014. I was at a hotel for Pesach. I was the rabbi there, and Modi got up and he performed, and because I was the rabbi there, so he picked on me, so which was fun. And I've had the good fortune to hear him perform and to entertain and to make people laugh, which is such a crucial, critical thing in these challenging times. He's really he's a phenom, and he has tremendous impact across the Jewish world, and it's a great covered. It's a great opportunity this morning to welcome Modi to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Shkoyach on the introduction. It was nice and brief, and it wasn't a hesped. Very nice, very nice. Okay, how are you? Good to see you. What Pesach program was that?
That was actually at the Diplomat Hotel in Miami, Hollywood. It was VIP Passover. You just showed up for it happened to be our friends, the Ob Shaloms, were there, and you came.
I will tell you that is a very funny story.
But I remember Rabbi Weil was there too, and he got up in the middle of the dining room and he started screaming, "Modi, Modi!"
No, here's what happened. Here's what happened. I was in LA, and my friend Dina and Johnny Ohev Shalom were staying there at that Diplomat Hotel. And I was holding a ticket for my flight back to New York.
Okay.
I just performed somewhere in LA or whatever for one of the nights of Pesach. And Dina said, come to us for the last days. And I said, well, Dina, I'm literally online to go to, she goes, see if you could do it. I look over, the other gate said Miami. I walk over to the girl behind the counter. I said to her, hi, I'm all set. I'm carry-on luggage, nothing checked in. I said, can I go to Miami instead? She clicked and janged and bing, ding, dang. Boom. I arrive in Miami, take a car. I arrived like 10 minutes before Yontif for the last days. I got there, and I'm going to give a shout out to Parker. Family, what's his name?
Yeah. He's from Englewood, right? If I'm not mistaken.
No. Five Towns. Parker. Yeah.
Okay.
I think he has kids in. He's a real estate guy. He comes over to me and he says to me, the entertainment was horrible. Because I would pay for you to do a show here, and it was with no microphone though, because it was on Yontif.
Right, I remember it was
right. So Rabbi Weil, right, it was a whole thing with Rabbi Weil. Can I use a microphone? You can use a microphone. And then I said, okay. I went to see the room, and the stage was hollow, so it had a good reverb, had a good reverb, and the room was a good sized room, was a tight room. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And then it was like, I guess, Motzi Shabbos, but still Yontif. So we went in there and I did the show. And while I'm doing the show, some guy comes up with a scooter, electrical scooter. So I said, Rabbi, if he can go on that, why can't I have a microphone? Literally, that was one of the opening jokes. And it was just so much fun. It was a great program. Yeah, it was a fun.
You've probably done so. I mean, I see you do programs every year now. They should have you on the Pesach, one of the Pesach, these guys interview about Pesach programs. You probably have a lot to say, but they're paying you, so you have to be careful.
I've seen every type of program there is. Every type of Pesach program I've seen. Every single type.
Where are you going to be this year?
All Florida. All in Miami, Doral, Aventura, and another one. I just escaped my memory, but yeah.
You do the same routine at each program?
No, you got to, it depends. Know your audience. That's the name of my tour and the new special that I have coming out. Know your audience. You have to look at the room, and then you hit them with what you think is going to work.
I can, as a retired rabbi who used to speak a lot, I can just relate, like that experience you just described, that the Doral was kind of like, it's like when they come over to you, you're like, you're on vacation and you're like in the back of some shul, and they come over to you with like, hey rabbi, why don't you give the drasha today? You're not prepared, you haven't given it real thought, and it's interesting that you did, that you spontaneously got up and you perform like that. It's not easy. People don't realize a lot of preparation goes into a really good presentation. It's not just like something you do. I remember once also, I mean, I've heard you many times. I heard you once, it must have been like when Trump was still running for president. It was a Chabad dinner. Chabad of the Upper West Side had a dinner in some fancy hotel. on the east side of Manhattan, and it was the first time I heard you do. You had a great Trump routine, like back in the day. I don't remember, like it was a while
It
ago.
wasn't. It wasn't. I never did Donald Trump. I was talking about. I used to talk about Melania. I used to have a whole
Oh,
thing
really?
about
It wasn't
Melania.
that, just to do
I
some
never
Melania?
did. I never in my life did a Trump imitation ever,
Really? Okay.
ever, ever, ever.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
proud to say that.
Or maybe it was just about him running for president. Even that? No.
Could be. Could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't
Who
know.
knows?
Okay. So anyway, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Kind of. I read a little bit. You were born in Israel. I live here in the Five Towns. You grew up in Woodmere. It sounds like, or something. Tell us a
We
little
grew
bit
up in
about
North Woodmere by Or
that. Oh,
Torah in
that's where I
Temple
live.
Hillel.
I live. One second. I live around the corner from Or Torah on Valley
We,
Greens Drive.
we were on Oakley Road, so you go down Hungry Harbor, Pearl, and whatever the other street is, and it's right there.
Wow. Okay. So that's where I'm speaking to you from.
From Or Torah? Oh, from
I was the rabbi.
your
I was the rabbi at Or Torah for like 4 years.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. Yeah. Small
Well,
world.
I don't know what happened. See, when I left there, Rabbi Youngrice was the rabbi, one of the sweetest souls I had ever met in my life. Rabbi Youngrice and his wife, Rebbitzin
Famous.
Esther Youngrice, but he
Right.
was the rabbi, and he was such an neshama, such a soul. When he spoke to you, you melted into him. He was such a sweetheart.
He had
And
Mashiach, he had Mashiach energy. He had Mashiach energy.
100% Mashiach energy. So sweet, such a sweet man. He was the rabbi there, and then I left, and from what I understand, the Sephardic minion from downstairs took over the upstairs,
You got it. You got it. Yeah.
and that's where it all
They
went.
are the Balabatim today, the Sephardim. They have a very
Good for them.
good shul.
When I was there, it was a synagogue, the Greeners. It was really guys that came after the war. They sat in the front. They all spoke in Yiddish. And they were the ones that built that synagogue. And then the Sephardic younger people took over.
So how many years did you spend like in these parts over here? How long were you here for?
From age 7 to the age of college, whatever that is.
Oh, right. Okay. So you really grew up over here. Okay, amazing.
Yeah, but it wasn't the Five Towns of today. It was today. You drive everywhere. There's just Hebrew letters. This is a yeshiva. This is a Chabad. This is a this. This is a mikvah. This is a sheikhel fixing company. It wasn't like that. They were like, well, there was a young Israel. There was Or Torah.
Right.
There was a lot of conservative synagogues, which I don't think are around there anymore, except for Hillel. If that's conservative anymore, I don't even know.
I think it is.
Okay.
I'll tell you, it's funny because I'm about your age. I think we're about 2 years apart. And growing up, when I was bar mitzvah age, I went to Haftar over here, the Hebrew Academy, and there were bar mitzvahs that were housed either in, like, the parties were either in Or Torah or in Temple Hillel. And I would come to these parts all the time as a young boy. And then for like fast forward 30 years, 40 years, I'm back. But like for that whole gap, I never came here. I had a Sephardic temple also. I had my Sheva Brachos at Sephardic temple. So it's really nice, like an area that you vaguely knew as a kid, and like not a lot going on here Jewishly so much. And now it's like booming. It's a whole different world. It's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice.
So how does Modi go? How do you go from, so first of all, how long did you live in Israel for?
Till I was 7. And then my parents moved.
And not since. I mean, you visit obviously a lot, but you haven't lived there.
Never more than 2 months at a time. Back in the day, I used to go there for the summers, and then, but no, I haven't lived in Israel since.
And what brought your parents to Chutz La'aretz? What brought them to leave?
The Golden in Medina, the opportunities, and my parents were the last of their siblings to move here. All of my parents' siblings all moved here right after they finished the army. My parents lived in Israel. They raised a family. They had a house. My sisters and I were born there, and then they just so that we would have cousins and we would have uncles and aunts. They all moved here. So
yeah, okay,
yeah,
fascinating. So I assume you don't like grow up wanting to be a comedian. Or maybe you do. How does that evolve?
I didn't. I had no idea. I was the story is I was working in investment banking, and I used to imitate the secretaries, and then my friend said you should do it on stage. Kitzer and Maisa, that's how it was. And then that's how it began. That's how it one thing led to the other. Hashem said, I need to bring you into what you have to do. And that's how he got me into comedy.
Fascinating. Did you enjoy investment banking? Is that something like
I was enjoying it. I was having a good time. I didn't realize that I was not meant for it. I loved the moment, and then once I realized comedy is what I'm going to do, then I had to head out and take a plunge and quit and go to do shows and all that.
so it happens to be there's a guy, you probably know him, you know of him, he lives here in the neighborhood, in our neighborhood, North Woodmere, Mordechai Shapiro. He's a famous singer today.
Yeah, of course, amazing. What a voice.
So Morty and I are friendly, and like people don't realize, like, when Morty was starting out, like, he was doing bar mitzvah gigs and like nobody knew who he was. And like,
Well, he started out. His big first claim to fame was he sang with Shweki Rachem.
all right, when he was a little kid, like
He was the kid that sang Rachem, Rachem no Hashem Elokeinu.
Oh, right, I forgot you're a chazan too. I forgot. Okay.
Oh, he's amazing, and then he's adorable. He's like a new, I don't know. The singers went from like, which are all Gedolim, Mordechai Ben David, Avram Fried, and then even Shweki was like a younger face, and then he came out with this bubbly, and he got the younger people his age when he was like maybe 10 years ago, much more Mashiach energy. He's wonderful.
Right. So my point is, like, in any career, there are people that, like, everybody has humble beginnings, most people, right? Some people make it, some people don't make it. Thankfully, you've made it in your space. Like, what's that journey like? What's that like? There must be a lot of, I imagine,
I don't think I've made it yet. We're still climbing and climbing. The only thing I could tell anybody is whatever journey you're on, enjoy the ride. I wish I remembered now in my 30s to like enjoy the Catskill gigs more, the back of the synagogue gigs more, the country club, the gigs, in Hebrew there's a word, chalturot, the little, it's like the gigs that you didn't like, they were fun and they were great and they were like, you're like, oh, I should be doing better than this, I should be doing more than this, but you should also be enjoying that.
That's a great insight. I love that. Like, you got to be in the moment. You got to be where you are. You got to be happy.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, be happy at it. Don't have a tochas punim and don't do it. You're there. There's a reason you're there. Hashem put you there. Do it. Right. Do it well. Do it with a happy face, and hope for bigger and better things.
There was a tkufa. There was a period where you were doing all this fun stuff on social media. Like, you were doing the presidential candidates, like,
yeah,
like, what happened to all that stuff?
It was pandemic. My husband and I were home, and we hit these two characters that you had an audience that was captive. Everybody was on their on the phone all day long because you're sitting at home. So we set up a studio here, and we did, whenever we went out, we would do Near Not Far, the Israeli character, and then Yoeli, which I've been bringing back a little bit. People love Yoeli, and
oh, is it back? I haven't been. It's back. Yoeli's back a little. Yeah.
I posted Yoeli's take on the when the tunnels were in Crown Heights. Okay. To bring some levity to that whole situation. Wow. And I posted the other one was about and they have like over like near 1 million views. People love Yoeli, and it brings levity I forgot what the other one was, but it was really good stuff, just to bring when something's dark and never mind, I don't remember, but it was. We need
more.
Go to Modi Live. Go to Modi _live on Instagram, and you'll see.
It's coming back.
Yeah.
Very nice. So, talk a little bit about kind of who are some of the people that inspire you. Who are the people, comedically or otherwise? Kind of like, who do you look to for inspiration?
I mean, there's the inspiration for Ruchnius and all that. This is the Lubavitcher Rebbe is one of the biggest influences in my life.
Did you ever meet? You ever meet the Lubavitcher Rebbe?
Yes, many times. And,
you did?
Not meet, like I went to get $1 and had.
No, I'm saying so you got dollars. Okay.
Many of them moments of yechidus I had with him, but I never sat and had real yechidus with.
We have that in common because I live, as you know, close to the oil, right, in North Woodmere, and we frequent. I never met the Rebbe in person ever, but we've established a strong connection, posthumously. But let's hear. I'd love to hear. So you had a few.
Listen, when I visit my parents in the five towns, I drive out of there right away in Waze. I put in oil and go right to the Rebbe's grave on the way home. And it's such a feature of living in New York that the Rebbe's grave is right there. And I strongly suggest that people visit the Rebbe's grave. You'll feel the energy. It'll change you.
You'll meet a lot of. You can be the whole array of amazing people at all. You never know who you're gonna bump into over there. What is it about the Rebbe in particular that you find so motivational?
No, it's the big lesson is you have to help other people if you want help in your life. That's you met the Rebbe. He gave you $1 to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right away. Two Jews meet. The first thing they should talk about is how to help somebody else. And then he said, bracha behatzlacha, blessings and success. But first, how do we help somebody else? And then the bracha behatzlacha comes.
Beautiful. I love that. Getting a lot of good yesodis today.
Which is an amazing takeaway for this podcast that we're talking about philanthropy.
Right.
People making money and helping other people.
100%. And we're gonna pivot there in a few minutes. That's very powerful. Do you see yourself in some way? Like there's an interesting, to make a sushtel, to make a comparison. We talked a little bit about some of these singers. There've been podcasts where these singers have been interviewed and people ask them like, do you see yourself as like a rebbe of some sort? Like, and it's an interesting thing because people do idealize performers and they've been given kind of a platform, right? Whether they want it or not, there's a certain platform. I wonder about you as well. Like, you obviously perform in front of different audiences, but do you see yourself as like a shliach on some level of not just performing, and not just bringing simcha to people's lives, but to trying to impart lessons like you're talking about here?
100%. I feel as I am a shliach of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. 110%. I don't have a Chabad house, but every time I get to a theater and there's packed full of Jews, I am there to make them happy, to unite them through laughter, through being proud. It's a very proud Jewish show. It's not like I don't make fun of being Jewish. We have fun with it. We don't make fun of it. And
I love the Svardim Ashkenazim routine. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, which is Mashiach energy. We're taking a thing that you would think divides the Jews.
Right.
And once we began to joke about the two things, everybody started to. If I could tell you the amounts of emails and DMs I get, my husband's Sephardic, my wife is Ashkenazi, I'm this, we're a mixed marriage. They just bring it's laughter. We're still one nation. We're one people, and Ashkenazi Sephardic means nothing. It's just the little cultural shtus, and embrace it and love it and be able to joke about it, not
But by the way, it's maybe that's why it's so funny because it's called emes lamito. It's absolute truth. Like I was at a Sephardic fundraiser this week in North Windmere, and I walk in the room and they're like, Rabbi, and they're hugging me and they give me so much kavod. They're like, I go to an Ashkenazi shul, it's like
they all think that they all think that they're the rabbi.
It's very funny, but it's true. There's a certain I guess humor that's making fun of truisms are really part of it's
100%. Yeah. 100%.
You were talking before about, we'll get into philanthropy in a second. You were talking before about kind of enjoying the moment and enjoying the smaller gigs. Like, are there ever gigs you don't enjoy, or what's the recipe of a great gig versus a not so great gig? They can't all be the same. I'm curious, kind of how do you see it? There must be gigs you come off the stage, you're super energized, you're super excited. Other times you're probably that didn't go. Not that you didn't do well, but the crowd didn't respond the way you wanted, or
So the way I would say this like this. First of all, not every gig is the same. Not every gig is the same. It's not, I just did the Paramount Theater, 2 shows, 1,000 seats. They came to a theater to see me. It's a theater. There's no food. There's no drinks. They're sitting there. Where's Modi done? Then you have the gigs that I call them, my podcast is called And Here's Modi, because I'm so used to following crazy things on stage. Speaking of philanthropy, whenever you do a fundraiser for some philanthropic organization, they show a movie of some gehaktetzuris, some disease, some organization that needs help, some child that's missing an earlobe or whatever they need money for, a movie, and then they bring me on, and here's Modi. And so now you're coming in after this depressing speech. You're coming in after a year in Pittsburgh, that the synagogue that was shot up.
Sure,
I
sure.
performed there a year later.
Okay.
A year later, I did a show there, and things like that. That's the "and here's Modi" gig. Every gig is fine. They know there's going to be comedy. Comedy is never good as a surprise. People need to know we're having comedy after the dinner, or we're having comedy or whatever it is. And then the setup is very important. The sound and the lights, and no food. If you're performing for Jews and food hits the table, you have no shot.
Really?
If you're a singer, you go into your own zone and you sing and you're done. Comedy has to have people have to be focused and laughing on a cadence with you. So that's it's every gig is different. Every show is different. But
I gotta ask you, I always wonder about comedians. Like, there's some great comedians out there I really enjoy. I love that deep belly laugh, and it's so therapeutic. I just wonder, like, you guys all have amazing memories. Like, how do you get up there for an hour or 45 minutes and just like go through a routine? Like, to me, it's super impressive. You don't have like a teleprompter. It's like you just have to remember. Like, you never forget something. How does it work?
You do the material enough, and you keep adding on to it, and you keep changing things, and it's in your head. And when I'm at the gym, I go through it while I'm working out, and then you just do it, and you watch yourself doing it, and it's a repetition of it.
But you're acknowledging you have to basically, however you get to the point of like owning the material, you got to get to the point where you own the material, right? You can't, and the first time you do a new skit is different than the 10th time, obviously. So that first time must be like, I don't know, it must be scary.
I wouldn't say it's scary. You put it in between two things is going to work, and you work it out a little bit. And
so you're always taking feedback. Like, you'll sit down after the performance and you'll be like, that little piece that didn't go the way, like you always have to assess, kind of.
Yeah, Leo definitely records my stuff, and then we watch it like in the football when they go over there how it was.
Right, cool. The coaches
different. And changing the name is so important. Changing a number, changing the name of the city is so important. Pittsburgh is much funnier than Hewlett. Yes, exactly. Much funnier than Dallas. It's
interesting. It's very new. It's a lot of chachma that goes into it. A lot of
and on the video you can also watch where you need to pause and take a beat and give them a gesture with the eyes. So that's how it works.
Are you niche to the Jewish world, or like is there?
Anybody that comes to my show is going to understand everything. Jews are going to understand it on another level. For Goyim, it's a portal into the Jewish world through laughter and pride and comedy. Through laughter, they all of a sudden they get to look inside the Jewish world and through laughter learn about us. But they're going to understand. I don't speak like we're speaking now. Pshat and this and that and all these words. And whatever I do, I translate. There's always a guy in the audience, and I work with them, and I make sure that they understand. This way I know every other guy in the room understands. Okay. And, I'll take one of the biggest lessons I've learned through other comedians was from Jackie Mason. He was true to his audience, and the rest followed. He was true to his audience. He was a Jewish comedian, showed you the world through the eyes of a Jew, and non-Jews, they polished it. They couldn't get enough. I don't know if you remember, there was a show, The Nanny, with Fran Drescher. It was a show about this woman who was a nanny in this Goyish house of this rich guy, and every other word out of her mouth was Yiddish, and her mother would come over, and it was such a great a portal into the Jewish world, into the Jewish mind.
Interesting. It's like there's a real opportunity to make a Kiddush Hashem, in the sense that
Yes. Yes.
There's a sense of responsibility, but it's
Yeah.
Jewish, meaning the show. You'll never do a show that's like completely devoid of Judaism. That would be
No, listen, I perform at the Comedy Cellar, which is not a Jewish, it's the best comedy club in the world, and it's not a Jewish audience. It's a sprinkling of Jews, but I do material there that everyone knows when I get off, a New York Jew is just on stage. That's obvious.
Got it.
Just like when Chris Rock knows a New York black guy was just on stage. It's obvious. It's an obvious thing, but it's material that I do for them. I wouldn't do them in shows that are all Jewish, and so yeah.
Have you ever schmoozed with Jerry Seinfeld? Have you ever had a chance to like talk to him?
I ran into him a few times at the Comedy Cellar. Or, hello, how are you? This and that, but nothing really. Yeah, he's a comedian that's Jewish. I'm a Jewish comedian.
Got it. Okay.
It's cool. It's a little
new. Yeah. So have you had a chance to be in Israel since October 7th?
I was in Israel on October 7th.
Oh wow. Okay, so tell us.
Yeah.
Backstory here.
We were in Israel. I had shows during
Sukkot, I guess during Sukkot.
Okay, during Sukkot, I had these amazing shows in Israel, and Leo and I, we were on a high I can't explain to you, and we were in
Which shows? Like what shows did you have? I wasn't fortunate to be there for Sukkot. So for example,
wow, we were at 2 shows in Tel Aviv, at Bet Chayal, beautiful theater, like 900 people, but a low ceiling, so it feels like a comedy club. In Jerusalem, 2 shows in this unbelievable theater. I forgot the name of it, but I think it's the Jerusalem Theater.
Have you done this before? Have you done this before, Sukkot?
No, I've done shows. I've done tours in Israel. This one was on another level. This one was on another level because the audience wasn't just Anglo. It was Anglo and Israeli. The tickets sold immediately. So it was in Herzliya, Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim, and somewhere else. I'm forgetting. We had 6 shows. It was unbelievable. And then Friday night, we were at the Satai Hotel and with the Nakash family, and we were just sitting there, joking, laughing till 2 a.m. We went to bed, and Saturday, the war broke out. We had a flight that day, October 7th, from Tel Aviv to Paris, because I had 4 shows in Paris.
Okay. And
there was a 4-hour delay, but it was a sign for me from Hashem that the shows in Paris have to go on because
you got out on Shabbat.
We were the last flight out of Paris, out of New York, the last flight out of Tel Aviv. There were no flights in or out of Tel Aviv for 3 days after ours took off.
Wow.
We landed in Paris and we decided to do the shows, which was a very good idea. And again, and here's Modi, the entire audience is on their phone watching what's unraveling in Israel, and then the lights go down and I'm on stage.
Oh, wow. Have you been back since then to Israel? Or
No, I haven't. I'm on tour. I'm on tour right now. I have a tour out that's called Know Your Audience. There's a comedy special coming out on the same name. And it's available modilive.com if you want to know if there's a show near you. And it's come and I always say, be the friend that brings the friends to the comedy show. If you see a comedian's coming to a comedian or singer, anything that's got simcha in it, don't just buy tickets for you and your wife, for you and your husband. Buy tickets for 6, 10 tickets. Buy them. Wow. You'll find someone to bring, and people will need a laugh. You'll see. People forget to plan ahead. Be the one that plans ahead and get 10 tickets and invite your friends. Mashiach energy.
Beautiful. Tell me a little bit about some of the places you visited on this tour, and tell me a little bit about what are the vibes you're kind of getting from, like, you've been touring for a long time, not the first time you've toured, but what's the unique vibe over the last few months? What are you feeling? What are you seeing out there?
It's people need an hour and a half to just not forget the war, but to think about happy things and to laugh. Laughter is a medical condition. When you're laughing, you're relieving all this pressure. And then at the end of every show, I sing Hatikva. So we all remember right away where our hearts and our prayers are in Israel, and we move on. So for an hour and a half, people are having I feel Mashiach energy, just to unite for laughter, not to unite for to learn about what's happening in Israel, to unite for laughter, and then We sing Hatikva to remind us where our hearts really are. And it's funny because since the war, I had a tour. It wasn't really a tour. It was these shows that were in Berlin, Frankfurt, Dusseldorf, Vienna, Amsterdam, and Brussels. I call it my reparations tour. It was like I was.
By the way, my wife is from Vienna. My wife was born in Vienna. Her father still lives there, actually.
Wow. So maybe he was at the show. Vienna is unbelievable. There's used to be 250,000 Jews there, and now there's 8,000. But they're such a tight-knit community with amazing infrastructure to help each other. They say that they're organized from birth to death. If you're from kindergarten to an old age home, they have everything covered.
Interesting. So do you, like, when you go to these places, do you take time? I don't know if you have the time to tour, to learn about the communities there. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a day or two to and things happen organically. In Vienna, the guy who's the head of the organization took us out and told us about everything and gave us kind of like a little bit of a tour of what's happening there. In Berlin, the people that organized the event showed us the whole place, and and the historical of what's going on in Berlin and what happened, and we learn, and it helps, and it gives you it gives you material to work with, and it puts you in the headspace of where you are.
I hear. Well, just personally, somebody who was born in Israel, I'm sure you have friends in Israel, relatives in Israel. Like, what do you, aside from professionally, like personally, what are you feeling kind of right now, just in terms of, you see what's going on college campuses, you obviously see what's going on, you live in Manhattan, you see what's going on in Manhattan. Like, just how do you feel personally, like, as a Jew, in the world today, 2024? Like, how do you feel personally about it?
Two things I would answer to this. First of all, the expression "never again," the meaning of it has a new meaning. It's not never again. There won't be people trying to kill Jews. That's never gonna. They're gonna always, if you ever speak to Holocaust survivors and they tell them never again, they're like, okay, all right, never again. They know that it's gonna happen again.
Always again, sadly.
Yeah. The never again is the never again. Are you gonna attack Jews and not feel a repercussion? You came into our land. You beheaded our babies. You now have no country. You're done. Finished. You say that genocide's okay on a college campus, you lose your job. Little things like this, that's the never again. That's the never again. So that's the thoughts I have in my heart now. And every night I go to bed, and I believe me, I know what's the solution? Is it two-state? Is it peace? It's Mashiach. I go to bed every night, and I say, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, open my phone, and the first thing I see is all the hostages were released. That's what I'm gonna. I go to bed every night thinking, tomorrow I'm gonna open this phone up, and the first DM and the first Instagram post I'm gonna see, from whether it's Channel 12 or Haaretz or whatever it is, all hostages were released. And that's you have to be in that mindset.
By the way, you're like a positive thinker. I sadly wake up every morning and, like, if there's no soldier who died, I'm like relieved. Like I'm saying, but that's no, that's beautiful. That's very Lubavitch Rebbedik also, in terms of Geula and Mashiach. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
You want to say something else about that also? I think you.
No, that's it. I'm done. This is yeah.
No, it's a crazy time. It's funny. I have a friend. I WhatsApped him last night, just like joking around. If you follow the markets, I'm like, I hope you own NVIDIA stock. I said to him, because the stock NVIDIA, it's like exploding every day, more and more money. So like my friend writes back, he goes, it's nonsense. Like, we need Mashiach. Like, it's not, like, who cares? Like, it's not important. So that's a big it's a big deal. So we're fortunate.
It's very important. It's very important. Let me tie this all back.
Yeah.
Money is very important. Money is an energy, and it's an energy that is a meshugana energy. It's an energy that can be used for chesed, for charity, philanthropical uses, or it could be used for drugs, or it could be used for for prostitution. It could be used for, it's an energy that has to be harnessed in the right way.
Right, right.
And so it's important to make money. Kabbalah means to receive. Why is the most mystical thing in Judaism called to receive? Because if you don't receive, you have nothing to give. So your friend making money in the stock market is good, as long as he knows that it's for enjoying life and also sharing.
How to use it. No, for sure. So that's a great segue just to our last piece. So, we have the good fortune of speaking this morning. Partially, the shidduch was made by the Jewish Future Pledge. I think they changed their name recently to Jewish Future Promise. They're becoming more ambitious, and they were kind enough to. I spoke with the founders a while back on this podcast, and they were kind enough to connect us. And I would love to hear a little bit just about how you got involved with this cause, with this organization, and you just shared a little bit about philanthropy.
Mashiach energy in Gans. We were in. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. Leo and I were in the hotel. Leo answers every email immediately. It's something you can't imagine. Anything that comes in, boom, boom. He right away catches it. And the Jewish Future Promise reached out and said, hey, we see you're going to be in Atlanta. We'd like to do a video with you. And we said, okay. And we listened to them and we figured something out. And we get to Atlanta. And we didn't know what they were. We didn't know if they were the little, Chaykat organization or some big thing with a big guy behind it. And here's what happened. We get to Atlanta. Usually when we arrive early to a hotel, we buy the night before. So there's no waiting in the lobby for the hotel.
Well, that's smart. That's very
always, smart. Always. Here we didn't. And so the woman said, we don't have a hotel.
I gotta tell my wife this, by the way. She's always like, we have to arrange our trips so that we don't end up having to wait in the lobby. So that's good. It's great.
Yeah. It's a part of the expense of touring. And we got to the hotel, and they said they were going to send a camera and someone for us to read a script and whatever it was. Anyway, so we got to the hotel in Atlanta, and they didn't have a room for us, and we didn't do the night before. Luckily, I had cash. I smeared the woman behind the counter. She gave us a room I've never, with a living room and a dining area and a whole thing. And with Mazel, because when they showed up with their camera crew, they were like 8 people. Yeah. They came with lights and sound, and it was a real project. They were serious about it. I didn't know. I never heard the organization. We Googled, we couldn't. But it was Hashem gave us that room just so we can do the video. The video is also on my Instagram. It's me signing, and there's a whole thing we did with it. It was really cute. And it's an amazing organization. They want you, they're not asking you for money. They're saying when you pass away, in your will, you should leave at least 5% of whatever charities you're doing to a Jewish organization.
Right.
This obviously is for Jews that aren't so religious, because some of them just leave everything to a museum or to their alma mater school, and they don't think of, giving to some Jewish charity. So this is saying that you're promising in your will, you're going to give 5% of whatever donations to something Jewish, which I believe that's the concept. Right. If it is, that's something I'm behind.
Right. It's actually patterned after, there's something like in the secular world and non-Jewish world in terms of some sort of pledge, right? Like where Buffett and these people give away, I don't know, half their wealth or something just to charity. Yeah. There's kind of like a little bit of a takeoff on that, but to reinforce and strengthen the Jewish community, which is an incredibly important thing. We're going to wind down here, just like 1 or 2, final questions. Just, I like to ask my guests in terms of their personal philanthropy, kind of like people, see you on the stage, right? And obviously you perform at a lot of charitable events and so on and so forth. But personally, like, what are the causes that you're most passionate about? Or how do you think about, nobody has infinite, resources. How do you kind of triage? How do you decide for yourself? I'm just curious, like, how do you go about your own decisions? How do you give back? Or maybe for you, it's with your time. How do you decide kind of, I'll volunteer for this organization, or I can't do that. How do you think about these things?
Listen, I perform for unbelievable organizations, and it's a balance. You can't say, hey, we want you to perform for free. That doesn't work. Luckily, I put tuchuses in seats. So if someone sees Modi's coming to this event, they're going to buy a ticket, they're going to buy a table. That helps. I work with them, obviously doing a big charity, and it really depends. Organizations that I don't know why Hatzalah. I just love Hatzalah. I love the fact that it exists. I help them. I make the donation to my local Hatzalah in the Lower East Side, but in my comedy special, I speak about them. And I talk about them. I have bits I do about them, and just talking about them on stage is unbelievable. There's an organization. I have a joke. It's a very funny joke about Bonei Olam. I don't know if you've ever heard about this organization.
Sure. People who struggle having children.
Just to put a joke out, So I have a joke I do about it. It's a little edgy, but someone once saw this joke, and they said, "Is this a real thing?" And they Googled, and they found Bonei Olam, and they sent $10,000.
Really?
And she sent me a DM with the receipts. So I didn't know this existed. I read about them. I see what they do. I never would have heard about it unless I heard your joke, which is very important to joke. And that's why I always, when you can, put a Holocaust reference in a joke, so that people who've never heard of the Holocaust or Auschwitz or a Holocaust museum, like, what is that? And they Google it, and they look, and it's very important. So that's a way I give back. Friends of IDF, amazing. And Magen David Adom, and all of those things that, when you're laying on the floor and you're hurt or whatever, and all of a sudden you see a guy with a yarmulke and tzitzis come over to help you. What an amazing thing. It's unbelievable. United Hatzalah in Israel, unbelievable. Eli Beer.
Is incredible. I love Eli. Tremendous work.
Mashiach Energy on another level. You have an organization where you have Druzim, Christians, Muslim, Jews, all helping together. It's unbelievable.
By the way, how is the podcast going? We didn't talk about that at all. Tell me a little bit.
Nahara, we just had our 100th episode. We taped it at the 92nd Street Y. It was epic. I think it's on YouTube, and obviously and anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's on Apple and Spotify and all those places. And
what's the podcast about? Like, what is it? What's its goal? What's its?
It's and here's Modi. It's
an extension
behind the scenes, and whatever we talk about, and, whatever's happening in the world, whatever happened at the shows, and it's just people love it. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's people tell us that we love. I put it on while I walk my dog, and I love it. And we put it on with the car. It's fun material. The kids can be in the car and listen to it. It's insight into Jewish worlds and different. It's more in depth into like wherever I performed, and like if you asked like in Vienna, what did we do, and like we talk about the Jewish community in Vienna, or whatever happens. And we just had episodes with stuttering. There's no agenda, but it's fun.
And it's one. So it comes out once a week. How frequent does it come out? Once a week?
Once every Wednesday. Yeah.
Is it scripted? Like you know what you're going in talking about, or not even? It's really.
There's always like we have topics, but we always rant and go off on some other topic and have fun. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Modi. We'll look forward to sharing.
Thank you very much for having me on, and much hatzlacha in everything you do.